Hello guys, I'm Eli Gonzalez with the Art of Eli. I'm sitting here with Rudy. Rudy is one of my favorite customers. So today we're gonna do a little experiment. We're gonna send him off to a local barber and he's gonna get a haircut.
So I'm sitting here about to get my fade. Should be fun.
As expected, I didn't get the fade I wanted. You can still see the line.
So with Eli, he wanted to do this experiment because he says my problem's a common one. I was always asking him like, why can't people do my fades? And
hair.
He tells me it's because you have super thick crisscross hair.
So for my first video, I want to share my fading techniques so that this won't happen to you.
What Eli does first when giving his customers a fade is mark the edges the way the customer wants it. In this situation, Rudy, which is myself, likes a pointed sideburn, so you see Eli doing that here. One of the most important tips that he likes giving his barber friends when doing this is to never leave a space between the top of the ear and the hairline connecting to it. It can mess up a great cut by making it look like your customer is wearing a wig. Remember, it's all in the details. Of course, this doesn't apply if your customer's getting a ball fade. Also, whenever necessary, follow the customer's natural hairline. Use that as your guide. Remember, when hair is growing back beyond the edge line, it is very visible. So you want to minimize that as much as possible for your customers. Next, you start to mark your reference line. Usually with repeat customers, you don't have to look for it as you can see it. This situation is a special one because Eli is fixing a wrong fade. But the steps to creating the perfect fade stay relatively the same. So, to start fixing my fade, Eli starts by following the reference line set by the previous barber. He starts with an 1.5 inch open guard and follows the line all the way around my head with it. He chooses a 1.5 inch because that's about how long the shortest hair is on my head around the reference line. He cuts 1/4 inch above and 1/4 inch below the reference line with this. It is super important to stay within within half an inch both ways to prevent from creating another reference line, especially moving upwards. You do this until you see that the guard is no longer cutting. From there, you move to a closed 1.5 inch guard and follow the same step at the new line you created below the reference line. What you are doing here is creating a blend from reference line to the hairline below. He does this process of going from open to closed until he reaches the size of the hair below the reference line, which in this case is a closed one. And there you have it. You created your first blend, or fade as you want to call it. Following the first blending, Eli moves to the top of my head where he starts on the second blend. As you see here in the video, he is creating a new reference line with the size 5. He uses a size 5 because from there up, he can cut, trim, or fade with the scissors if needed. We are repeating the previous step, but this time we are meeting up with the initial reference line. We mark the top of the line with the 5 open and then closed. And then we follow the fade with the 4 open and then move down with the 4 closed. And then a 3 open to a 3 closed. We do this until we reach the 1.5 inch open. At this point, you will not have to cut anymore, and the blending or fade, as you want to call it, is complete. Once the fade is finished, Eli likes to go over all the hair once more. With me, he starts back up at the top with the 5 open and goes down all the way to 1.5 inch closed. He does this to double check himself and to make sure that he did not miss any hairs. To summarize his technique on the perfect blend, as he would like to call it, you fade moving down the head, never moving up. A lot of barber schools teach you to move up as you are fading, but in Eli's opinion, it can create more problems by disrupting the reference lines and jeopardizing the customer's wants. In Eli's technique, you create your reference line and move down from there to the finished product, and then move back up to the head, to the top of the head, where you blend the rest of the hair to the reference line. The reference line should never be put at risk. Once the fade is complete, you cut the top of the customer's hair to their liking. In this situation, Eli used scissors with my hair. He has 2 more important tips to give you here to complete the perfect cut. Tip number 1, use the texturizing shears to take weight off of the hair. Also, use them over the lines to fade them in more. You can see him doing that here. To the untrained eye, these lines are difficult to spot, but he can see them from across the room. Tip number 2, use a feather blade. As you can see here, he goes over the hairs very softly. This is to avoid cutting off too much. This is done to cut off any little hairs that are sticking up. This final touch gives the fade a super clean look. And there you go, guys, the perfect blend, the perfect fade, the perfect cut. Remember Eli's technique, fade downwards, never up. And never forget the small details. They can mess up a great haircut.
Thank you. And remember, the most important thing is to do it right.